The hospital smelled of medicine, metal, and memories I didn't want to face. My mother lay in the ICU, connected to tubes, monitors, and machines that beeped like a ticking clock counting down her life. I stood there helpless, watching the woman who raised me, protected me, and sacrificed everything for me struggle to breathe. Her chest moved up and down with the help of a machine, and for the first time in my life, I understood how truly fragile life could be. Fear wrapped around my heart like cold fingers pressing tighter and tighter. I wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse on the floor, but I forced myself to stand straight. The doctor's words still echoed in my ears. "She's critical, pray for her." Those words kept repeating inside my head, each time sharper, each time heavier. The world outside continued as normal, but mine had stopped, paused on this moment of uncertainty. I expected family to show up. I expected relatives to ask, "Kaya Hall High, is she okay? Do you need anything?" But no one came. Days passed, and only silence answered me. Not a single message, not a single call. It was as if my mother's life meant nothing to them. I kept staring at the hospital entrance, hoping to see a familiar face, even one fake enough to pretend they cared. But the doors opened only for strangers, nurses, patients, doctors, visitors for other families. Never for me, never for my mother. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped thinking someone finally asked about her, but it was always hospital updates or bank messages reminding me of bills piling up. I felt like I was drowning, emotionally, mentally, financially. I barely slept, barely ate, and still stood there beside her bed every single day, because that was my duty as a daughter, a duty born from love, not obligation. I remembered her warning me once, long ago, "In tough times, Beta, you'll know who stands with you and who walks away." I didn't know her words would become my reality so soon, and as I watched her fight for her life, I realized how true she'd been. But even in that storm, there was one person I thought I could rely on, my husband, the man who promised to stand with me in sickness and in health. So when my phone finally buzzed with his name on the screen, I felt a small spark of relief. I thought maybe he was asking about her, maybe he wanted to know how I was holding up, maybe he would come. But when I opened the message, everything inside me froze. "Send me $15, zeros. Zero now, urgent. No, how is Amy? No, are you okay? No, do you need anything? Just a demand for money." A heartless order in capital letters, as if money mattered more than my mother's life, more than my emotional breakdown in that suffocating ICU room. For a moment, I genuinely felt dizzy. I had spent hours praying for my mother to survive, hoping for strength, wishing for support. And instead of comfort, instead of compassion, my husband sent me a financial command, like I was some ATM machine he owned. I stared at the screen for a long time, reading the message again and again, disbelief turning into anger, anger into pain, pain into a kind of numbness I had never felt before. How could he be so cold? How could he think of money at a time like this? Did he have no heart, no shame, no humanity left? Duty pulled me in one direction, toward my mother's bedside. Fear pulled me in another, toward the possibility of losing her forever. And somewhere in the middle, his selfish message cut deep into the little strength I had left. I put my phone away and went back to holding my mother's hand. Her skin felt cold, and I gently rubbed her fingers, whispering prayers under my breath. "Amy, please, don't leave me." Tears slid down my cheeks silently, but I quickly wiped them away. I didn't want her to feel my fear. I wanted her to feel my strength, even if it was fading. My duty kept me rooted beside her. I didn't leave the ICU even when visiting hours ended. I begged the nurse to let me stay a little longer. She agreed, seeing the desperation in my eyes, and I sat there, hour after hour, afraid that if I walked away even for a minute, life would take her from me. Still, my phone buzzed again, another message from him. "Did you send the money yet? Why are you taking so long?" His words sliced through whatever was left of my patience. I wanted to shout, "My mother is dying, and all you care about is money." But I didn't. Not yet. I simply locked my phone and reminded myself who deserved my focus. My mother, not a man who valued me only for financial convenience. As the night grew darker, my fear grew heavier. Machines kept beeping, nurses kept rushing, and every minute felt like a decade. My eyes were burning from crying, but I kept going, because love doesn't sleep. Love doesn't walk away. Love doesn't demand, it stays, and that is what I did. I stayed. By morning, exhaustion took over. I leaned my head on the edge of her bed, still holding her hand, when the nurse touched my shoulder gently and said, "She's stable for now." I finally let out a breath I had been holding for hours. A tiny bit of hope returned. But duty didn't end there. I still had decisions to make, responsibilities to handle, and a mother to save. And fear didn't disappear either. It stayed in my chest, reminding me how fragile everything was. Yet somehow, between fear and duty, something else awakened inside me, strength. A quiet strength that whispered, "You are alone right now, but you are not weak." And as I looked at my phone again, his demanding message stared back at me, but this time I didn't feel defeated. I felt determined to protect myself the same way I protected my mother. That day, in the ICU, torn between fear and duty, I realized something important. Sometimes the people we expect the most from are the ones who give us the least. And sometimes the moment you break is the moment you begin to rise. The hospital lights flickered softly above me as I stepped outside the ICU for a moment to breathe. My eyes were swollen, my clothes wrinkled, and my hands trembling. I had spent hours watching my mother fight for her life, her weak heartbeat echoing through the machines that kept her alive. Every second felt like borrowed time, every beep a reminder of how close death stood beside her bed. I leaned against the cold wall of the corridor, feeling the weight of exhaustion press onto my shoulders. I thought maybe a short break would give me enough strength to go back inside and sit with her again. My mind was drowning in fear, fear of losing the only person who ever truly loved me without conditions. But before I could collect myself, my phone vibrated in my hand. I glanced at the screen, expecting it to be a doctor, or maybe someone from the family finally asking how she was doing. But the name flashing on the screen made my heart stop. It was my husband. For a moment, hope bloomed inside me. Maybe he was checking on me. Maybe he cared. Maybe he remembered that my world was collapsing in front of me. Maybe he wanted to support me. I opened the message with trembling hands. What I saw crushed every hope inside me. Send me $15, 0 now, urgent. That was it. No greeting, no concern, no sympathy. Just a cold, demanding sentence written in capital letters, as if he was ordering a servant. I felt the blood drain from my face. My chest tightened so hard that I had to grab the wall to remain standing. I read the message again, unable to believe it. My mother was literally fighting for survival, and my husband, the man who promised to be my partner, was demanding money as if nothing else mattered. There was no "how is she?" No "do you need anything?" No "are you okay?" Just money. Money, money. In that moment, I understood something brutally painful. Sometimes the cruelty of someone you love hurts more than any illness, any tragedy, any storm life throws at you. A nurse walking by noticed my expression and gently asked, "Are you all right?" I nodded weakly, though inside I felt like screaming. My hands shook as I typed back, "Why do you need it? I'm at the hospital. Amy is critical." I stared at the phone, praying he would say something human. Seconds later, his reply popped up. "That doesn't matter right now. I need the money urgently. Don't make excuses. Send it." I gasped softly. It felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Did he really just say my mother's life doesn't matter right now? My eyes burned with tears, not from weakness, but from the shock of realizing how cold he truly was. How could a man become so heartless? How could he see me suffering and still choose greed over empathy? How could he ignore the biggest pain of my life and think of himself only? I swallowed hard and tried again. Please understand. I'm emotionally shattered right now. Can't this wait? His response was instant. No, and if you don't send it immediately, you'll regret it. The threat was like ice in my veins. My hands went numb. Not once did he ask if I had eaten, slept, cried, or needed support. All he cared about was his demand. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Memories flashed through my mind. Moments where he pretended to care. Moments where I convinced myself he loved me. Moments where I chose to ignore the red flags dancing around him. But now his true self stood exposed like a monster in daylight. I went back into the ICU, trying to hide my emotions. My mother looked so fragile, her breathing shallow, her hands cold. I gently held her fingers, and the tears I tried to hold back finally spilled. "Amy, what do I do?" I whispered. Her eyes were closed, but it felt like she could still hear me. All my life she protected me. All my life she stood beside me. But today I had to face this battle alone. My husband, the man supposed to hold my hand, was driving a knife into my heart. My phone buzzed again. I hesitated before looking. "Hurry up, I'm waiting." My grief turned into something else. Something darker, sharper, stronger. Anger, not the loud, violent kind. A quiet, controlled fire rising inside me. A fire lit by betrayal. For years, he acted entitled. He treated my earnings as if they were his property. He spent recklessly, made careless decisions, expected me to cover his mistakes. And each time I agreed because I believed that supporting your partner was part of love. But today wasn't about love. Today was about survival. Mine and my mother's. He could have supported me. He could have been my pillar. He could have shown even 1 ounce of humanity. But instead, he decided to break me when I was already shattered. I wiped my tears, stood straight, and walked out of the ICU room. The corridor felt colder now. The world felt different. Something inside me had changed, something irreversible. I typed back slowly, every word heavy with pain and clarity. "You're asking for money while my mother is dying. Do you realize how cruel that is?" His reply came within seconds, proving he wasn't emotional. He was impatient. "Don't lecture me. Just send it." That's when the truth finally hit me like a slap. He didn't love me. He loved what I provided. He loved what he gained from me. He loved the convenience I brought into his life, not me. The realization cut deeper than any wound. But strangely, beneath the hurt, I felt something new, strength. A quiet strength that whispered no more. I didn't respond to him. I simply put the phone in my pocket and walked back to my mother's bedside. Her breathing was weak, but she was fighting, and if she could fight for her life, I could fight for mine. For the first time, I looked at my husband's message and didn't feel powerless. I felt awakened. His cruel and shocking demand had peeled away every excuse, every illusion, every lie I once believed. This was the moment life drew a line for me. Either I continue being the woman who sacrifices everything for people who don't value her, or I rise, and I knew exactly which path I would choose. The phone felt heavier in my hand than it ever had before. His messages sat on the screen like poison I couldn't wash off. I wanted to believe there was some misunderstanding, that maybe he didn't realize what I was going through, that maybe stress had made him careless with words. A part of me still searched for an excuse, some soft spot to protect me from the truth. But the truth didn't want protection. The truth wanted to be seen. I looked at my mother through the glass window of the ICU. Her face was pale, her body barely moving, her breath shallow and uneven. Machines beeped around her like fragile prayers trying to keep her alive. Every moment felt like a battle between life and death. Every second held the weight of fear. I wished he were here with me. I wished he were holding my hand, telling me, "I'm here. We'll face this together." But instead, he was miles away, staring at a phone screen, waiting for money. Not updates, not comfort, not reassurance, just money. I took a deep breath, hoping the air would calm me, but it only reminded me how suffocating everything felt. My hands shivered as I unlocked the phone again. I wished I hadn't. Another message, "I'm serious. If you don't send the money soon, I'll handle it my way. Don't push me." My heart dropped. There it was. The mask coming off, the priorities revealed. Not a husband worried about his wife, not a man concerned about a dying mother-in-law, just a desperate, selfish person using threats because he thought I was too weak to say no. I stared at his words, feeling my soul flinch. His priorities were loud, clear, and cruel. Money came first. His needs came second. My pain came last. I wanted to scream at him, "Can't you see what's happening? Can't you understand what I'm facing?" But deep down, I knew he could see. He simply didn't care. I felt an ache rise inside me, not a sharp pain, but a deep, slow heartbreak that came from realizing that the person you trusted the most has no space in his heart for you. Another message buzzed through. "Why aren't you replying? Are you pretending you're busy with your mother? Don't be dramatic. Just send the money." Pretending, dramatic. The words slapped me across the face. Did he really think this was an act? Did he think I was exaggerating my mother's condition? Did he think my tears were some cheap performance? The heartbreak turned into something else, an anger that made my blood heat under my skin. But even that anger wasn't enough to overpower the sadness eating me from the inside. I typed slowly, "She's in the ICU, fighting for her life." His reply came instantly, like he couldn't care less, and "That's not my issue." I said I need the money. 4 words. And "that's not my issue." Those were the words that exposed everything I had been blind to. The words that shattered the last pieces of hope I had for him. The words that stripped our marriage down to its ugly, bare bones. This was a man who valued himself above everyone. A man whose empathy had dried up long ago. A man who expected me to put his needs above my own mother's last breaths. I slid down the wall and sat on the cold hospital floor, my back against the tiles, my knees pulled close to my chest. I felt like a child who had just discovered the world wasn't safe anymore. Above me, fluorescent lights buzzed quietly. Nurses walked past with charts and medicine trays. People cried softly in corners. Life moved around me, but inside me something had stopped moving. His message kept staring at me, cold, heartless, demanding. I saw every moment of our marriage flash in my mind. Times I forgave him when he didn't deserve forgiveness. Times I stayed silent just to keep peace. Times I worked extra hours to cover the things he wanted. Times I told myself, "It's okay, he'll change." But people don't change their priorities, they reveal them, and he had revealed his brutally. My phone buzzed again. "You don't understand how urgent this is. Stop thinking about other things and focus. Send it, now. Other things." My mother's life was other things to him. I felt something snap inside me, not violently, not loudly, but with the quiet finality of a door closing forever. I stood up slowly and walked back toward the ICU window. I watched my mother's fragile body rise and fall, and for the first time I realized that if she were awake, if she could speak, she would tell me the truth I had been avoiding. "My child, you deserve someone who loves you, not someone who uses you." I touched the glass gently and whispered, "Amy, I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner." My phone buzzed again, but I didn't look at it. I let it buzz in my pocket like an annoying fly that no longer had power over me. In my silence, he sent message after message. "Do you even care about our marriage? You better not make me angry. Why are you ignoring me? I swear you'll regret this." Every message exposed him further. Every sentence revealed the truth he had tried to hide behind charm, promises, and sweet lies. He didn't want me. He wanted control. He didn't care about my heart. He cared about my money. He didn't see me as a partner. He saw me as a wallet, and the worst part, I had given him that power. I had believed his fake concerns, his fake affection, his fake apologies, because I wanted to believe he was good. But the message thread on my phone was a mirror showing me his real face. And for the first time, I didn't feel confused, I didn't feel guilty, I didn't feel torn, I felt clear. His priorities were not me, they never had been. I finally pulled out my phone not to reply, but to read his messages one last time. And as I scrolled through them, I realized something deeply freeing. Every word he sent was a reason to walk away. In that quiet hospital corridor, with my mother fighting for her life on the other side of the glass, I promised myself something. I would no longer fight for someone who couldn't stand beside me in my darkest hour. He had exposed his priorities. Now it was time for me to choose mine. For a long moment, I stood completely still, staring at the cold hospital floor as if it could somehow tell me what to do next. The weight of everything, my mother's fragile breaths inside the ICU, the heartbreak bleeding inside my chest, and the cruel demands flashing on my phone, pressed down on me like an ocean trying to drown me. My husband's messages kept buzzing one after another. I could almost hear the impatience in every vibration. He believed he could pressure me, guilt, trip me, force me, manipulate me, because that's what had always worked before. He thought I'd break, he thought I'd bend, he thought I'd surrender because I always had, but something in me had changed. My mother's suffering had opened my eyes, her silence, her struggle, her vulnerable state. All of it reminded me of the sacrifices she'd made her whole life. She never asked for anything, never demanded, never threatened me. She gave love freely. She gave comfort without expecting anything back. She gave her life raising me, and here was a man who had given me nothing but pain at the moment I needed support the most. I walked slowly toward the end of the corridor where a small, lonely waiting area stood. I sat down on the cold metal bench, my hands trembling as I unlocked my phone again. Not because I was scared, but because I was gathering the courage to do something I had never done before, stand up for myself. His last message glared at me like a slap. This is the last time I'm asking. Send the money right now. A strange calm washed over me. Not the calm that comes from peace, but the kind that rises right before a storm. Quiet, dangerous, and filled with clarity. I took a deep breath and started typing. For the first time ever, I didn't respond like a scared wife, a broken woman, or someone desperate to keep the peace. I responded as someone who had finally seen the truth. You care more about money than my mother's life. Thank you for showing me your priorities clearly. I stared at the words. They weren't enough. Not anymore. I breathed in and kept typing. I won't send you anything. Not now. Not ever again. Whatever urgency you created is your problem, not mine. My finger hovered over the send button. A small voice inside me whispered, "Are you sure?" What if he gets angry? What if he blames you? But another voice, a stronger, fiercer one, rose inside me and silenced all doubts. I pressed send. It felt like breaking chains. His reply came within seconds. What the hell do you mean? Are you crazy? Don't test my patience. I didn't shake this time. I didn't cry. I felt a strange power rising inside me, like every part of me was waking up after years of being asleep. I typed again. For years I supported you. I covered your mistakes. I worked extra hours. I sacrificed my peace. But today, when I needed you the most, you showed me exactly who you are. Another message came immediately. Stop with this emotional drama. Your mother will be fine. Just do what I said. The audacity of it hit me so hard that I actually laughed, not from humor, but from disbelief. My mother could die any moment, and he dismissed her suffering like she was an inconvenience in his schedule. I wiped my tears and straightened my back. And then I wrote the message that truly changed everything. From this moment on, I'm done. I'm done being used. I'm done being controlled. I'm done being your source of money. I'm blocking you, and when this crisis is over, I'll deal with you legally. You will no longer have access to me or my finances. This time I didn't hesitate. I pressed send. 3 seconds later, his reply came. Long, furious, chaotic. You're making a huge mistake. You can't talk to me like this. After everything I've done for you, you owe me. Don't you dare block me." I didn't even finish reading it. With a calmness that surprised even me, I opened the options and pressed block. His name disappeared from my screen, his messages went silent, his presence evaporated, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free, not completely, not peacefully, but in a way I had never experienced before. The silence around me felt heavy, but it also felt like a beginning, a painful, necessary beginning. I closed my eyes and breathed deeply. My heart still hurt, but it was no longer from fear. It was from release. My tears fell again, but this time they weren't tears of defeat. They were tears of strength, of reclaiming myself. When I got up and walked back toward the ICU, something about me had changed. My steps were slow but steady. My hands still trembled, but not from fear. And as I reached my mother's bedside, I held her hand with a new kind of resolve. "Amy," I whispered softly, my voice cracking, "I did it. I finally did it." Her eyes were closed, but I imagined she could hear me. I imagined she was proud. I imagined she knew I was choosing myself for the first time. The nurse came in with charts and updates. The doctor walked over with cautious optimism. My mother was stable, but still in danger. Yet somehow I felt stronger now, because I wasn't carrying the weight of fear and manipulation anymore. I sat beside her, my heart beating steadily, and whispered, "I promise you, when you wake up, you'll see a daughter who no longer lets anyone hurt her." My mother taught me resilience. Life taught me pain, but my husband, through his cruelty, taught me how to stand up for myself, and my response to him wasn't just a message. It was a declaration, a turning point, a battle cry, a rebirth. That one message changed everything, not because he deserved it, but because I did. When I blocked him, I thought that would be the end of the chaos, at least for the moment. But endings are never that simple, especially when dealing with a man who has always believed in his power over me. The first few hours after cutting him off were strangely quiet, like the calm that settles right before a massive storm breaks open. I could feel it forming, hovering in the distance, waiting for its moment to strike. But I didn't care. I was done being afraid. My mother's condition remained fragile. I spent the entire night beside her, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. Every breath she took reminded me of what truly mattered: love, family, loyalty, humanity. Everything he lacked, everything he never tried to give. By morning, my phone was flooded with missed calls, not from him, but from mutual friends, his relatives, and even unknown numbers. He clearly thought he could reach me through others, but I ignored them all. He didn't deserve a place in my peace anymore. As I sipped a bitter cup of hospital tea, a plan slowly formed in my mind, not a petty one, not impulsive, but a plan rooted in truth and justice. He had taken advantage of me for years, financially, emotionally, mentally. He believed I was trapped. He believed I couldn't survive without him. He believed that I was too soft to ever fight back, but I had finally woken up, and now my revenge wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be violent. It would be devastatingly calm. The first step came naturally. I logged into our shared financial accounts, something I hadn't checked in a long time because I trusted him. What I saw nearly made me drop the phone. He had been siphoning money for months. Small amounts, hidden transactions, random withdrawals. It wasn't just $15,000 he wanted. It was a pattern. One I had missed because I was too busy working, supporting, caring. My hands tightened around the phone. I felt the betrayal burn all over again, but this time it didn't break me, it fueled me. I printed every bank statement, every transaction, every screenshot of his threats. Every message where he dismissed my mother's life like it meant nothing. Every proof of his selfishness, all of it. Then I called someone I had avoided contacting for too long. My lawyer cousin, the one who always told me, if you ever need help, don't hesitate. I hesitated for years. But not today. He answered the call on the second ring. When I told him everything, there was a moment of heavy silence. Then he said, in a low, firm voice, "Come to my office. You're not going through this alone anymore." That sentence broke me again, but in a healing way. When I arrived at his office with the file of evidence, he flipped through every page. With each passing second, his expression changed, from confusion to anger to disbelief. He used your money and threatened you while your mother was dying. He said, shaking his head, "This man has no heart." "No," I whispered, "he doesn't. We can freeze your accounts today." He said, "We can block his access permanently, and if he has taken funds without your consent, we can take legal action." My heart steadied. "Do it." And just like that, the chain he had wrapped around my finances snapped apart. By the time evening came, his cards stopped working, his accounts froze, and his financial world collapsed piece by piece. I felt no guilt, not because I was vengeful, but because I had finally protected myself. Hours later, while sitting in the hospital cafeteria, I saw a message pop up from an unknown number. "I know you blocked me. You think this will affect me. I'm not stupid. I'll deal with you when you come home." I didn't reply. I didn't flinch. I simply smiled, because he had no idea that I had taken the second step of my revenge. Earlier that day, I had met with the management of the company where he worked, not out of pettiness, but because I discovered he'd used my documents for one of his financial deals, fraud, clear and undeniable. I didn't have to say much. I simply provided proof, gave my statement, and walked away. But the final blow, the one that would leave him speechless, came unexpectedly, like fate helping me. Late at night, his sister called me. I didn't want to pick up, but something told me I should. The voice on the other side wasn't angry. It was trembling, Babhai. "Wo gar partufen macher rahahai," she said. "He's accusing us, yelling at everyone. His cards aren't working. His accounts are blocked. He's saying you ruined him." I remained silent. Then she said something that made everything fall into place. "He's saying you betrayed him, but we all saw what he wrote to you. We read the messages." My heart skipped a beat. "You saw them?" "Yes," she whispered. "He showed them while shouting, and now nobody is supporting him. Not even Amy," she said, "a woman whose mother is dying, and you ask her for money. You don't deserve a wife like her." For a moment I froze. The man who always believed he could twist the truth, the man who always made me the villain, the man who always manipulated people, had exposed himself to his own family. He had destroyed his own image while trying to defend his greed. "He's shattered," she continued. "He keeps saying, 'Why would she do this to me?'" A soft, bitter laugh escaped me. "Why? Because he pushed me into a corner I could no longer survive in. Because he demanded money while my mother fought for her life. Because he betrayed me for months. Because he used me until I was empty. Because he thought I would never walk away." "Babhai," she whispered again, "he's in shock. He never thought you'd fight back. He's completely speechless." I closed my eyes, letting her words sink in. For years, he believed I was weak. For years, he believed he controlled everything. For years, he believed I would always choose him over myself. But revenge isn't always about destroying someone. Sometimes, it's simply about showing them who they can no longer control. And that was exactly what I did. I didn't scream. I didn't break. I didn't run. I stood up quietly, firmly, powerfully, and the silence of my strength was the revenge that destroyed his arrogance. He wasn't just speechless. He was powerless. He was defeated by the truth he tried to ignore, and as I walked back to the ICU holding my mother's hand, I whispered to her softly, "Amy, he can never hurt me again. A new beginning from now on, you." From the moment she read those final words in her own message, "From now on, you," something quietly but powerfully shifted inside her. It wasn't anger anymore. It wasn't fear. It wasn't even the heartbreak that had followed her for months like a heavy shadow. It was clarity, clean, sharp, and unshakable. She finally understood that endings don't always come with doors slamming or people walking away. Sometimes they come softly with a simple realization, I deserve better, I always did. That night, while her mother slept in the ICU, surrounded by machines humming like anxious whispers, she sat in the cold hospital corridor with her phone in her hand and her future in front of her. She typed the words slowly, carefully, as if each one was stitching a wound closed. She didn't scream. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She made a decision. From now on, you will no longer have access to my peace, my money, or my trust. She pressed send, and with that, a chapter of her life ended. For years, she had carried the weight of a marriage that looked stable from the outside, but slowly drained her from the inside. Her husband's selfishness wasn't new. It had always been there, disguised as stress. Hidden behind excuses, wrapped in empty apologies, but his demand for $15,000 while her mother fought for life, that was the moment he crossed a line he could never uncross. She had spent so long thinking love meant sacrifice, silence, and patience. But now she understood something she should have seen sooner. Love doesn't destroy you. Manipulation does. Greed does. People who think they own you do. When her husband saw her message, those calm, icy words, he didn't reply right away. Instead, he called again and again, like a man suddenly afraid of losing the thing he thought he controlled. But she didn't answer. For the first time, his voice didn't matter. His threats didn't matter. His urgent needs didn't matter. She had spent too many years giving him everything while he gave her nothing, and now she was done. The next morning, she went home to gather her things. She moved quietly, picking up the pieces of her life that still belonged to her, her documents, her clothes, her memories before him. She didn't take anything he had bought. She didn't want a single thing that came from him. She wanted freedom, not compensation. He arrived while she was packing. His face was pale, not with guilt, but with fear. The fear of losing the comfort she provided. "We can talk," he said, pretending calm. "You're upset. You're emotional because of your mother. You're overreacting." Those words might have broken her before, but not anymore. She stood tall. "I'm not emotional," she said softly. "I'm awake." Just 2 words, but they shook him more than any argument ever could. He tried explaining, lying, twisting the story to make himself the victim, but she didn't respond. She didn't need to. His words slid off her like water off stone. Then came the moment he didn't expect. She handed him a set of papers, bank statements she had arranged, proof of the hidden transfers he made, screenshots of his demands, messages where he had lied, manipulated, and used her. His mouth fell open. You were watching me, and no," she said. "I was trusting you, but now I'm done." That was the difference. He reached out to stop her, but she stepped back. "From now on," she said, her voice steady, "you don't get to decide anything about my life." She walked out of the door and didn't look back. Outside, the sunlight felt different, like it was touching her for the first time. She took a deep breath, feeling something she hadn't felt in years, control. She wasn't just leaving a man. She was leaving a version of herself that had accepted pain because she thought she deserved nothing better. The next few days were not easy. She stayed in the hospital, holding her mother's hand, praying for her recovery. But even through the fear, the uncertainty, and the exhaustion, there was a new strength building inside her. She had faced a storm and walked out of it alive. Her mother eventually opened her eyes, weak, tired, but alive. And when she squeezed her daughter's hand, something inside her settled. She realized she had done the right thing. She had protected herself, and that was something her mother had always wanted for her. As her mother recovered, she rebuilt her life slowly. She changed her locks, opened new accounts, cut ties with people who only brought negativity, and surrounded herself with those who genuinely cared. She found work that fulfilled her. She found peace in silence. She found meaning in the smallest things. Sunrise after a long night, laughter after weeks of tears, freedom after years of being controlled. And whenever her husband tried contacting her, calling, apologizing, promising change, she didn't respond. She didn't hate him. She didn't wish him harm. She simply no longer owed him anything. She had already given him more than he ever deserved. Months later, when her mother was finally strong enough to stand again, they walked together in the hospital garden. Her mother looked at her and said, "You look different, stronger." She smiled, "Because I finally chose myself," and that was the truth. A new beginning isn't loud. It doesn't always come with celebrations or applause. Sometimes it comes quietly, through a moment of courage, a single message, or a decision made in a hospital hallway while your whole world feels like it's falling apart. Her new beginning started with one simple sentence: "From now on, you don't get to hurt me." And from that moment, she never let anyone dim her light again.